we're going to focus on the 5 bad things that she thought about Vietnam, and we're going to kind of break it into what we think about it. So without further ado, guys, let's get straight into it.
Smoking. It's impolite if you talk to them directly about that.
Smoking is a huge thing. Everybody smokes in like Vietnam. Even if you start working at a high school as a teacher, the kids are smoking. Like, it's ridiculous. Vietnam has to have one of the heaviest smoking like populations I've ever seen. Like, even the old ladies smoke. Like, it's insane out there. If you don't smoke, it's an issue. Like, everything smells like cigarette smokes. Like, when you go out to restaurants, everyone's smoking around you. People are flicking cigarettes on everything. They're gonna be smoking, blowing cigarettes, smoking your face, and they're not doing it to be like rude. Don't get it like that. It's just everybody smokes. Crazy story is I quit smoking while I lived in Vietnam, and it was definitely one of the harder things I had to do. And it wasn't my own controlling. It was everybody like, David, take another one. Come on, bro. They're not going to hurt you. It's just one. Like, I got those lighters all the time. And the crazy part is, like, a pack of cigarettes is like 50 cents. And the medical treatment in Vietnam for these types of cancers is very, very limited. Most Vietnamese people that end up getting cancers from smoking related issues, dental issues and stuff like that, there isn't the help for them. Sometimes it's a financial reason, but a lot of the times the medical can't. They just don't have the technology for that kind of stuff. So if you do hate smoking, get ready for it in Vietnam. If you do smoke, get ready to save a whole lot of money, I guess. Is that a positive way to look at it? I don't know.
Number 2, I don't like the problems in those cities at all. For example, traffic jam or air pollution, water pollution, pickpockets.
So with this one, I cut it kind of, again, I cut this one kind of weird, but the idea is she enjoys that Vietnam's innovation is moving up. Like, the cities are becoming bigger, Da Nang, Saigon, stuff like that. It's bringing a lot of petty theft. It's bringing a lot of pollution, water pollution. She said ocean and, like, pollution in general, air pollution. Like, Vietnam is it's a very dirty country. I think Vietnam is, like, number 4 of the most pollution in the oceans. And then, like, number 5 is, like, Malaysia. So you have Malaysia and Vietnam, like, two of the dirtiest countries in Southeast Asia, like neck to neck, right? The cities are pretty chaotic. There's no driving like regulations in Vietnam. So it's like the more population grows, the more dangerous it becomes because of the traffic. People driving cars think they're better than everybody else. People driving bikes think they're better than people that don't have bikes. So you're constantly getting ran over, sidewalk. Even going to a local park in Saigon, you can't sit at a park. You can't jog at a park that easy because you always have motorbikes driving through it, or you'll have people parking their bikes on the walking paths. Like, it's rather insane. So big cities in Vietnam are definitely stressful, and they're becoming more stressful. And the government's starting to push a lot of these smaller cities into them. Like, a big example is Sapa. When I first moved to Sapa, and it was beautiful. It was full of Hmong people. It's a minority group out there. And it was just a beautiful countryside. The backyard was China. Big old mountains, it was an amazing spot. Now it's like a tourist ground, and it's just full of trash. It's loud. The air's completely fucked. It is sad because Sapa was like, I think like my 3rd favorite spot back then because it was just so natural and beautiful. Now it's a tourist spot, and that's something Vietnam does. Is when places get busy, they turn into a tourist spot. So if you go to Sapa right now, or go to Booking.com and type in Sapa, Vietnam, and look at hotels, there's like 50 million of them. And they're all next door to each other. It's ridiculous. And the government doesn't maintain the buildings, the infrastructure, stuff like that. So these cities end up turning to shit. You've been to Saigon. Everything's under construction all the time. Things are falling apart all the time because the government has no like maintenance plan. So they build it and they just hope it lasts 100 years. I don't know. And if something falls off, they just put some tape on it.
Hang Sao. It's just a slang word to call the nosy neighbors. Vietnamese neighbors are very friendly, helpful, but at the same time, they're very curious about your life. For example, share with me how great the children were doing at school. Okay. And after graduation, I started to go to work. And since then, they have been asking me how much I make per month now.
I don't mean to interrupt this because I usually don't, but if we go back, like, this is funny actually. They want to know your salary. This happens in Vietnam so much. Nobody wants to talk about their salary, but people always want to know your salary. Like, and if you don't tell them, they start attacking you. Like, they start gossiping about you. It's crazy.
Per month now, they just come up to me with the thing that, the children are married and they have kids, so I should too.
This is a funny one, like the neighbors. Neighbors are so noisy. And once you start living in like Vietnamese housing, which you can do in Vietnam, you start realizing the neighbors. Like when you start meeting the neighbors, and they are so they ask you everything. The neighbors get so nosy that they actually start making your life difficult most of the time. If they ever come over to talk to you about their kids or their life, it's always about them. Like you can never, I feel like this is the thing in Vietnam, you can never really talk to a Vietnamese person about just casual stuff. It's always about them and how they're doing better than everybody else. And she was saying that her neighbors will go over and talk about her kids. She's not telling her about her kids. Like, hey, Johnny, man, he just finished his soccer team. He made third. The neighbors over there, like, my kid does this. Why don't you? Like, that's literally what's going on. It's actually quite funny. And then the salary, like, Vietnamese love to know what your salary is so they can use it against you. The girlfriend tells the neighbor, like, oh, yeah, my boyfriend David, he's an engineer. He works for this company. Within an hour, the entire neighborhood knows what you do, how much you make, where you work at, what your name is, where you're from. Like, the gossip explodes. And once you start learning Vietnamese, you start realizing that everything's gossip. Like, nobody really has normal conversations. Like, hey, how's your day, man? Hey, did you see the Lakers game? It's always like, oh my God, did you hear about Julie? Did you hear about John and his new girlfriend? So your neighbors are going to be extremely nosy. So be careful what you say around people because it will get spread like wildfire.
For our educational system, the first thing is students have a lot of pressures to get good grades. The second thing that I don't like about it is we focus too much on memorizing.
All right, so the first one, the kids have too much pressure to get good grades. I'm gonna be honest with you on this one, girl. You're out of your mind. Any school that doesn't put pressure on a student to do good is a bad school. Imagine going to a school where the teachers, the principals, the parents all pretty much said, we don't care if you do good or bad, just show up. If you did that, you would end up with something like Vietnam. Oh, you see what I did there? Have you ever been to Japan? These kids kill themselves in Japan over grades. So Vietnam is a very lazy country when it comes to education. I mean, most of the kids are sleeping half the day in school. They're playing on their phone. Pretty sad thing about Vietnam. This is something you learn about communism pretty fast if you do become a teacher out there. Nobody fails in school. And like an example, if I can. If you live in the West, and let's say you come home, you get a D on a report card. What happens? Obviously your parents are mad, but what is the thought process that happens? It's usually like, okay, Johnny, are you not studying at school? Are you goofing off? Are you not doing your homework? Let's go talk to your teacher. The teacher will be like, well, what are you doing at home? And then mom might be like, okay, yeah, maybe we'll study more at home. We'll help him with his homework a little more. There's accountability. In Vietnam, if a kid gets a bad grade, it's the teacher's bad, or it's the father giving the teacher money to change the grade. And I'm not exaggerating. And when she says that they focus on memorizing, that is literally Vietnamese education. They just memorize shit. All they do is they open the book to a page and they write what's in the page, they write it in their book. That's it. And then when they have the test, they just pretty much rewrite it into the test paper. That's the test. Like, Vietnam is heavily based around memorizing over practical use. 95% of Vietnamese that graduate University of Vietnam have no value to society. They have no skills. They lack social skills because they're never off their phone. They lack practical or engineering skills because they don't learn them in school. This is something that surprises people. Even at university, I worked at 2 international schools and I worked at university. In university, they don't even start focusing on their major until the 3rd or 4th year. They spend the first 2.5 to 3 years redoing high school. I'm being serious on this. And then the last year, or like the very tip of the 3rd year, they'll start. I was teaching computer engineering and software development for JavaScript and stuff like this, right? The students coming in were seniors. This is their first time ever looking at code. And they had 9 months until they graduated. It's a horrible education system. And these kids are being educated to fail. And I think that's a big problem is the education is a money scam in Vietnam. And if you think about English centers, the mindset of Vietnamese people is the more you spend on the English center, the better you are as a family, the respect level, right? But also, it's this common knowledge that you have to spend 8 to 10 years in an English center. Typically, Vietnamese parents have this idea that I'm going to send my son to a special English program in his high school. That's going to cost a lot of extra already, right? and they're going to have like non-native English speakers. But on top of that, I'm going to send them to an English center every night, Monday through Friday, to study English with a native speaker, which is cool. But the idea is this lasts for like 10 years, and then these kids don't speak English. And a big reason for that, I'll tell you, because I've opened 2 schools in Vietnam. One of the biggest problems with Vietnam English education, they focused on the grammar. Like, as an American, I don't know English grammar. I don't. If you go to a Vietnamese person and say, explain Vietnamese grammar, they're going to be like, I don't fucking know. Grammar is great for learning, but unfortunately, Vietnam spends 7 to 10 years studying English grammar. And then once they start learning to speak with the native, they revert back to their Vietnamese grammar. You hear very like a lot. Like, I very like to go to the store. Like, what the hell is a very like? I agree with 100%. Education in Vietnam, it's crap. If you have kids, homeschool them.
5. Punctuality. In Vietnam, we call it giờ cao su. Literally translated into English, rubber time.
All right, last one. That was funny. She said, I haven't heard that phrase. Like, I heard that when I was in Lao Cai. Vietnamese people are always late, but they always expect you to be on time. So as a Western person, you'll hear this a lot too. Vietnamese people will be like, well, you're American. You should act like you're an American when you're here and like respect the time and stuff like that. But when Vietnamese are late, it's just like, well, But Vietnamese are notoriously late. And most of the time they're late because they were sleeping. She gives some advice saying like you should text message them before you leave to make sure they already left. That typically doesn't work out too well. I always showed up early to Vietnam. When I was going to schools, when I worked there, when I went to government meetings, I always showed up like 5 or 10 minutes early, and I'd always be waiting for 30 minutes until somebody showed up to help me. Like it's ridiculous. Things are always delayed. Punctuality is a joke, and it's usually because of sleep. So next time you see somebody that's late, look at their eyes. I bet they're sleeping. All right, so I think that does it for today, guys. So let me know what you thought about her insight and I guess my insight, like what I thought about it. She is from Vietnam, so she is a local, so you get the kind of a cool thing in there. But hopefully it gave you some insight on it. But either way, till then, I will see you again.